They really try to control the tempo of the game by slowing the game down, and I thought that, offensively we kept pushing the envelope, and I think eventually it paid off for us. I think our ability to finish in the fourth quarter the way we did, whether it was get a couple stops on defense and have a couple really successful drives offensively, great perseverance by our team to hang in there and keep fighting and sort of overcome hard. So, and there was a lot of adversity in the game. Some of it we created, some of it they created. But the one thing we did is we responded and we kept playing in the game. I think looking ahead here this week, we need to focus on a lot of fundamental, technical execution at every position, whether it's offensive line, defensive backs, it doesn't really matter what position it is. I think there's a lot of things that we need to that we can fundamentally execute with a little more consistency, and that's certainly going to be the focus in terms of what we try to get accomplished this week. You guys got the offensive players of the week, injuries. I think Ross will be out, for sure for this game, and then probably a medical decision after that as to where he is. Minka's going to be probably, day to day, this week as to what he can do and how he sort of can respond to this sort of lingering injury. The team that we play, Mercer, is a very well-coached team. They do a good job. They know what they want to do. They know how to do it. They do a good job of executing, and they've done a pretty good job all year long. And obviously for us, we always want to technically do what we have to do to get our players in the best position to be able to have a chance to be successful in the game, and use this as an opportunity for us to go out and develop confidence in our execution by the knowledge and experience that we gain in this particular game.
We'll start here front with John Cena.
Even this late in the season, can a team kind of grow? You guys are challenged from start to finish. State really kind of played well throughout the. Can you grow from that even this late in the season?
Well, I think you can always grow. I think you should always be looking forward, looking ahead at what you need to do to continue to improve, to develop team chemistry, togetherness. People's roles changes, guys change what they have to do, but it's sort of a work in progress all the time to try to continue to grow and develop as a team. And I think that's certainly what our focus needs to be if we want to finish the way we'd like to finish.
Back with Cecil.
Coach, you spoke after the game about Josh Jacobs, but if you could just expand on what having him at 100% and available does to the backfield rotation and to your options on offense.
Well, I think Josh is a kind of an easy guy to create a role for because of his versatility as a player. We certainly need to use him more now that he's healthy, and he certainly was healthy in that game and very explosive, and probably changed the game a little bit for us with his energy and enthusiasm. And he's always been a great competitor, and we're going to continue to try to expand his role so that he can be more productive for us. We're not displeased with anybody in terms of how they played at that position, but we would like to get him more involved in what we're doing.
We'll stay over here with Charlie.
After reviewing the film, how did you think that J.C. Hostenauer did filling in for Ross at left guard?
J.C. did a nice job in the game, and we have always rotated guys a little bit in the offensive line. J.C. also has to be the backup center, so he has to do sort of dual duty regardless of what his circumstance is relative to playing guard. So we certainly need to continue to develop that depth and make the kind of changes up front that we might need to make so that we have that kind of depth if something else happens to the offensive line, or if we have an opportunity to play other players at different positions, because that may be something we need to do down the road.
We'll come back over here to Michael.
This Mercer team played Auburn very close to 3 quarters. They were near
Is that game too early in the season, or is there still a lot that can be taken from that?
No, I think there's a lot that can be taken from that. I think anytime you play teams, especially at this stage in the season when you've been playing SEC games for how many weeks in a row now, it becomes a little more difficult for guys to have the right psychological disposition to not be playing a conference game regardless of who that might be. But I think it's important for our guys to focus on what we need to do as a team to improve and get better. We have players who need to get experience. We need more players to be able to play winning football. We have a lot of guys playing different roles, and I think this is an opportunity for us to sort of capitalize on efficiency and performance for our team. And I think we need to always have respect for whatever team that we're playing. That certainly should not determine the standard of how you play in terms of who you're playing. It should be the standard that you set for yourself in terms of how you want to play. And I certainly think that that's going to be important to us to continue to try to develop momentum as we go through and finish the season.
Coach, after the Mississippi State win, your press conference, you walked up to Miss Terry and kind of greeted her, and she was clapping for you. It was really sweet. The video kind of went viral. What is it like to have such a support from your wife through the ups and downs of coaching and just through your entire career like that?
Well, I think that's the thing that you got to have appreciation for. I think about sometimes when we had you probably don't even know what an old rusted out Volkswagen is, the old fastback type, like 19, whatever model that would have been, 60s of some sort, and go through the struggles that you go through personally and professionally, and to have a partner that has been supportive and an asset to the organization in every way is something that is really appreciated. And she's been a great partner, and I don't know why she puts up with me, but I'm very fortunate.
We'll stay over here with Chandler.
After reviewing the film, how did you think both Keith Holcomb and Dylan Moses played inside in Sean Dion's absence?
Well, I think that first of all, I think that stability of the defense has to be created through confidence in the signal caller, making the right calls, doing the right things, getting us in the right place, and everybody having confidence that they need to do their job. And we did that for a great part of the game, and there were times when we had breakdowns that were costly. So I think we all need to have the sort of attitude that we need to do more to try to improve our ability to be consistent in how we play as a defensive team totally, but starting from inside out.
Back on the left with Ryder.
How is the fact that Jalen has only committed one turnover this year, speak to his, again, poise, and also, just the fact that allowed you to stay, in a position to win the game, especially on Saturday, the fact that because of the limited possessions you had?
Well, I think the key to the drill in any game is taking care of the ball. The first thing we talk about in every game that we play is the ball, the ball, the ball. Some players have a hard time putting that as a priority. They sometimes put the priority in making a play, which means they think they can squeeze it in there when it's really not open, and it ends up getting picked off, or they're trying to gain some extra yards and not taking care of the ball, and it ends up being a fumble, or the ball gets busted out from the back or whatever. So that's something that we really emphasize with our team. It's something that Jalen is very conscious of and has done a really good job of, and to probably learn from some of his past experiences of taking care of the ball and how important that is. So I think it's critical, and it will continue to be critical, that our turnover ratio is a positive thing for us. We got to get more turnovers on defense, and we got to continue to take care of the ball on offense, which we've done a really good job of so far this year.
In the middle with Taryn.
How much have the freshmen stepped up and really made a difference this season?
Well, we probably played more freshmen this year than most teams, And I think for the most part, those guys have provided a tremendous amount of depth and in some cases filled in very admirably for guys when they're called on, whether it's on special teams or whatever their role has been as contributors of the team. So we're happy that we've played as many guys as we played, and we're happy with the way those guys have played. So I think it's a positive for us, and in most cases we've been able to play them enough to enhance their development, which is always sort of the priority when you play a young player is, are we going to play the guy enough so it enhances his development in practice every week and also the game experience that he gains.
Up front here with Dwayne.
Coach, you've talked about before hating to lose. You hate to lose. Jalen said the same thing a couple of weeks ago. He hates to lose more than he loves to win. What's it like having your leader have that same mentality as you?
Well, I think that all great competitors, not that I'm saying I'm a great competitor by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there's a certain amount of motivation that comes from what you want to accomplish and what you want to do and the standard that you want to do it to. But there's always that sort of competitive spirit that you want to come out on top and you want to be successful. And obviously in our sport, when you lose, you know, it's a sort of a reality check of, I didn't really do that. I didn't really get that done. We didn't do the things that we needed to do in a lot of ways. And although we focused on the process around here of what we have to do to be successful, I think from a competitive standpoint, it helps when, you know, guys don't like the feeling of not being successful.
How do you think the linebackers and safeties did against some of their RPOs on Saturday?
Well, they didn't run a lot of RPOs. They ran a lot more really tough play action passes. They had us on the first play of the game. In the back end, we didn't respond to it the right way. But for the most part, I thought that our issues were more on third down, man-to-man coverage, not tackling well, not playing bunch passes very well, all things that we need to work on and get corrected.
Back on the inside with Chris Walsh.
What kind of development has Raekwon Davis made, especially in just keeping to his assignments and doing what he's supposed to do?
Well, I think he's done a good job. He's a very conscientious guy, and he wants to do and please the coach in every way that he can. He plays hard. He's very competitive. He gives a lot of effort, and he's played with a lot of toughness, and I think he's made a lot of progress throughout the course of the year, and we need to have more guys up front probably play with his kind of tenacious sort of attitude. I think that's what you'd like to see your whole defense play with.
In the back with Joe.
Hey, Coach. After the game Saturday, Jalen said that he was reminded or was thinking to some degree about last year's Clemson game. How much do you think that game has made this year's team mentally tougher, the guys that experienced that game?
Well, I think that was a tough loss for any player involved in that game. A lot on the line. You work all year long to try to put yourself in that position, and then you come up a little short. I think that's something that you never forget. So if that's something that helps guys sort of not want to have that feeling again, I don't think that's a bad thing. But I also think that we want our players to be very positive about how they approach what's in front of them and the opportunity that they have in terms of what's in front of them is a positive motivation as to what this team can accomplish, the standard that we want to play to, and what they can do better to do a little more to help our team be successful.
The last two, Scott and Alex.
Nick, I know we talk about identity a lot, but I was wondering if, and I know this is part of identity, heart resiliency that this team seems to have had to go through this whole year with injuries and everything, kind of encompassed Saturday night getting through that. Have you identified the heart resiliency of this team? Is it more special than you've seen in a while, or?
Well, I've been pleased with the way the guys have responded. One of the things that we talked about before this last game was can you thrive on hard? Knowing that you're going to be in difficult circumstances and you're going to have hard things happen, whether it's in life or in a competitive sport, and are you going to respond the right way to that and look at that as an opportunity to thrive in a situation? And everybody can give more, everybody can do more, everybody can but really we want you to execute and do your job in critical situations when your best is needed. And obviously I was really proud of the way our team did that down the stretch in that particular game, so that gave them the best opportunity to be successful. But I think that kind of perseverance is always really important, and that comes from your heart in terms of how bad you want to accomplish something and how bad you want to do it. And are you putting that first, or are you putting yourself first? Because when we surrender, all of us, to what's not what we want, it's always about us. And when you start putting yourself first and not what you want to accomplish as a team, then you usually have some issues, and that's not been the case with many of our players.
Finish up right with Alex.
Last two games, the defensive has allowed over 150 yards rushing per game. What do you attribute to some of those issues, and what can y'all work on this week, moving down the stretch?
Well, I think that when you have changes, whether you make changes or whether those changes are inevitable because of players missing or whatever, those things are all things that have some impact on how you're able to play and what you're able to do, whether it's how you communicate, guys getting in the right things, doing the right things, not making mental errors, or having the confidence that every player out there is going to be able to do what he needs to do effectively. And I think we need to play the run better, but I also think we played two teams that were committed to being able to run the ball. And they ran the ball better than we'd like. But at the end of the day, when you do the stats on this last game, I think they had, 3.8 or 3.5 yards a carry or something like that, which is not really that bad. So they just did it a lot. And what creates those situations, and I'm going to go back to it again, which nobody seems to have the same concern about, is when you have them 3rd and 10, you have them 3rd and 7, you have them 3rd and 8, you have them 3rd and 9. When you play teams that run the ball like that, you got to get off the field. All right, so don't give them a new set of downs to go run it again and again and again, and keep sort of 3 and 4 and 5 yarding you to death. And when you have teams that can create extra gaps because a quarterback runs, it's difficult. Could we have executed better and done better on some of those things? Absolutely. Did they have a good scheme and a good plan to run the ball, shrink the game, play slow? Yes, they did. And the key to that was just like when we started it, you can't give them extra possessions. We go 3 and out right off the bat. I jump over the shield and give them another possession. Well, that possession now goes for 10 or 12 plays, changes the field position. All right, so all these things contribute to giving the other team more opportunities, not getting off the field on 3rd down, giving them extra possessions, whether it's penalties or whatever. So all these things sort of go hand in hand in how do you stop the run. But stopping the run, to me, is more about how many yards per play they get than how many yards they gained.